Sometimes, the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And once again, welcome to the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 206. My road trip continues. I'm over halfway through, entering the final lap, but let's reset the table a little bit for those of you that have been following along. The first week of my trip, as many of you know, I was at the Country Club of North Carolina for the U.S. Boys Junior. Congrats to Nick Dunlap for capturing the win in the final match against Cochair. Then it was on to the Western Amateur Championship at Glenview Club in Gulf, Illinois. Michael Thorbjornsen won in dominant fashion. He was the medalist, he set a new course record by shooting 62 in the second round, and he won the match play portion. Michael has already been a guest on the Back of the Range, but he will be returning soon to recap that win and to speak about his upcoming fall season at Stanford. Before moving on to this week, I have to give another huge thanks to all of the great people at the Western Golf Association. The collaboration between the Western Golf Association and the Back of the Range was so much fun. Patrick Donahue, John Borneman, Steve Pirletti, the entire WGA team, as well as everyone at Glenview, just made me feel so welcome. It was such an exciting week, and I can't wait to get back to provide more content for a future WGA championship. Now I'm currently on the third leg of the trip in Rye, New York for the U.S. Women's Amateur at historic Westchester Country Club. The best amateurs in the world are teeing it up this week. Players like Rose Zhang, the number one ranked amateur in the world, Rachel Heck from Stanford, Rachel Keene from Wake Forest, and of course the U.S. four-ball champions that I saw at Merido, Savannah Barber and Alex Saldana. While these players will get a majority of the focus throughout the week, I thought it might be interesting to obtain some background on Westchester Country Club. A champion will be crowned this week, but she won't be the first woman to hoist the Robert Cox Trophy, which is actually the longest-serving original USGA championship trophy. Edith Cummings picked up the win in 1923, so there is quite a legacy of championship golf here at Westchester. Who better to share some of these stories than my guest on this episode, Mary Ann Sullivan, the co-tournament chair of the U.S. Women's Am. Mary, along with her husband Jim, who is the president of WCC, are long-standing members of the club. They have a tremendous passion for the history of the game, as well as everything that WCC has to offer its members and the surrounding community. We spoke about her start in the game, her role as a tournament chair, and all of the great people here at Westchester that have made all of the players, parents, volunteers feel so welcome. They've made me feel so welcome. I get to stay on property this week, which is incredible. But let's get to this episode. Mary Ann, thank you so much for having me here at Westchester for the U.S. Women's Am, and thanks for being a guest on the Back of the Range.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Mary, before we get into talking about the U.S. Women's Amateur and Westchester Country Club, you know, it's a little bit of a rite of passage for every guest that comes on the Back of the Range. We need a little bit of backstory. We need to learn about how you got into the game of golf.
My mother was a golfer. My family were golfers. My mother happened to be a terrific golfer. We were members of Leawood Golf Club down in Eastchester, New York for many years when I was growing up, and she was club champ there for probably about 7 or 8 years. Pretty sure it was in a row. So she introduced me to the game, introduced me to my first sawed-off 7-iron, and taught me how to swing a club. And it was great to do as a family with my parents, with my older sister, my brother, and I luckily met a husband who also plays golf, so that was a good match. And so she taught me the game. She introduced me to the fun that it was. She and I had so many good times on the course. She's no longer with us, but we enjoyed it as a family, enjoyed playing with my parents and my sisters and brothers, and I picked a husband that liked golf too, so that worked out well.
Okay. Your husband, Jim, is the current president of Westchester Country Club. So that does seem like you found the right match there. So you're, tournament chair of this amateur, and your husband's the president, so that has to be just a
Sure.
that has to be a
is.
perfect match.
Sure. And it's a place that we both. He was a member here before we were married, and a place that we've grown to love and respect, and really have take great pride in our membership here,
Sure.
and in what the club is, and what it can become, and all the history that goes along with it.
So you're also quite the fixture in the community. It's not just a member of a club, but I know there are several different, different businesses, but you're very much a fixture in Rye. Have you been here all your life? Is this where you grew up?
No. What brought us here, or what brought my husband here at first, was the restaurant business, which is
Okay.
what he's in, what we're in. His first restaurant, on his second restaurant venture, would be the Rye Grill, a big visible mainstay of Rye Town.
Sure.
At the train station. It's his first. In his second series, he owned 7 restaurants and then whittled it down to 6 right now throughout Westchester County and
Okay.
Fairfield County. So we've got several here in town, and then up north in Westchester, and then down south to Yonkers, and up in Fairfield County as well.
And that's a whirlwind business to be in,
It
isn't
sure
it?
is. Last year was a challenge
Sure.
in and of itself, but it's something that he's known, and for many years. He owned his first restaurant at the age of 25, so it's something that's runs through his blood for sure.
Wow. Westchester Country Club, as soon as I stepped on property and I'm looking around, I'm a native South Floridian, so you just don't see properties and facilities like this for the most part anywhere, at least not that I've seen. Obviously, you see the club that has tennis and has the pool and has social activities, but you don't see one with a historic hotel, for lack of, it's a hotel. It's a hotel on property. And there's so much history. Perhaps share with listeners the history of Westchester, starting with, John McKenzie Bowman.
So we're just about to celebrate our 100-year anniversary. That would be next year,
Sure.
22. Correct. Correct me. Thank you. And thrilled to be doing that. So he envisioned a weekend resort, I think, for Manhattanites and surround, relatively short commute or distance to come and spend weekend, own a residence, rent a residence, stay in the hotel, and partake in all that the resort could offer. There were rumors, I certainly just can only go by history, but that they would deliver food to the homes. Many of the older homes on the property
Sure.
didn't have adequate kitchen sizes, so essentially nobody was cooking while they were staying in homes on the property. Food was delivered from the club to them, and lawns and gardens manicured by the club property. The beach club was a great addition for families to enjoy, and we had a polo field here at one point.
I think that's the driving range. Right.
Our driving range now, I think polo has fallen out of favor or style in many communities, but
Sure.
but our driving range did supplement what was once the polo field. So an incredible story in and of itself, I think. Yeah.
And you have 2 courses designed by the great Walter Travis, 2 incredibly challenging championship golf courses. One of my treats for the entire week is actually getting to stay on property in one of these incredible rooms. In fact, my view from my room looks right down on the putting green, which I'm not sure how that happened, but that's fantastic. But I look at, I look out, and it's not just hotel rooms, but it's also apartments. And it's very rare you see members living full-time. Obviously, they live full-time within golf course communities, but to live in a single building, it's a fully functioning hotel with permanent residents. It's just incredibly unique experience that your membership has.
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with the fact that members love this place.
Right.
The members love the staff. The staff becomes family, and it just becomes a place that you want to gravitate towards. We look out for our members who are residents here. I know that many of them will maintain afoot here as well as maybe in another like a warmer climate for winter.
Sure.
But some are just here full time as well. I don't know the exact number of rooms that we have or apartments that we have, dwindling down on the hotel rooms because when something becomes available at the members' expense, they're allowed to build out or renovate
Sure.
and create a better apartment or an apartments with most with spectacular views, P.S., because you look over the Long Island Sound on one side of the building, you look over Manhattan and the airports and the bridges on another side of the building, and some give you both views,
Sure.
which is really incredible.
I think I heard here that if a apartment becomes available, then members can try and purchase or take ownership of it, and it's the first right of refusal goes to the person who's been a member here the longest.
That's correct.
Okay. So what you're saying
they go pretty quickly too.
I can imagine that there's
it gets snapped up.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a great place to live. It's a great place to enjoy all the amenities, and an elevator button push away it gives you everything at your fingertips.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the social aspect. You mentioned these fantastic members that want to be here at all times. They love it so much. You've had some pretty notable members of Westchester Country Club. Just going down the list, and the list is long, but the names that jump out at me are Johnny Carson and Jackie Gleason and Ed Sullivan. I know, titans of industry and titans of the sports world, but all I'm thinking about immediately is what kind of social activities and what kind of fun has been had here over the years. Is there a special story or special memory that you have of just the social aspect of Westchester?
Well, they do a great job. The staff here, as I said, we're all sort of one big family, but they do a great job of putting together a calendar of events for every
Sure.
season, which takes you, from summer to fall through the winter months, celebrating the holidays, and then so it becomes something that you want to bring your families here to celebrate those special events. It's a great place. We have a beach club, as you know,
Sure.
and that during the summer months we have music venues that bring people around. There's a summer camp that the children and families participate in that runs all summer long and culminates with probably the best and most historic thing that we can talk about is our Big Little Show,
Okay.
where many of the children in camp and otherwise will practice all summer long to put on a musical production for their parents and families. It's the biggest attended night that we have all summer. I don't know, maybe there are hundreds of families that attend, and we set up a stage, and the kids are all costumed, and they look forward to that. The most special part of that evening is something called the daddy-daughter dance, where
Sure.
fathers will dance with their 7-year-old daughters as a second number, and what a rite of passage that is, and how seriously the fathers and daughters take it. It's terrific, and I've known members who at their weddings will show the video of
Oh,
them
wow.
and their dads and their friends who are in their bridal party dancing to that special night, and it just is a memory that people take and cherish forever. It's real special. It's real special.
You're talking about children, and we have the U.S. Women's Amateur here this week, and I'm seeing a lot of kids out in the gallery watching really the best amateurs in the world. And it's funny, in some cases, the age difference between the kids in the gallery and the kids in the golf course, it's not that big of a gap.
This is true.
It's maybe
Right.
a couple years here and there. These kids want to be on that stage at some point. They want to be playing, championship golf. What's the junior golf initiative program here at Westchester? How is, Ben Hofflein, the director of golf, how is he and his team kind of furthering the advancement of the game for the kids here so that they can explore whether it's playing for their high school team, playing in a junior golf league, or maybe someday collegiately? What's maybe the vibe here as far as junior golf goes?
So we've got a terrific junior program, as you've just alluded to. Thanks to Ben, and thanks to the great teaching staff that he's cultivated and brought up. the program is growing, and it continues to grow. There's an academy that they call the Harry Cooper Academy, which is terrific. That really teaches them how to not just about golf, but maybe about nutrition and about the other things that are important.
Sure.
So that's for a certain level and age of golfer. We have clinics beginning from the very early age. And the real great thing that impresses me is that they've seen the junior women or the junior girls really come out and start to grow. That's about a third of the program right
great.
now are junior girls. We have club championships and a lot of different events that they can compete in. But our junior girls club championship and our junior boys club championship are terrific events too, and they coincide then lead right into our regular club championships. So they're learning to compete and they're learning the game in a great environment.
Now we're going to talk about your game. You're a single-digit handicapper, so I'm glad I don't have my clubs with me this week. So that's all I have to say about that. But have you gone out and played with some of these kids here at Westchester? In fact, I know you see the program, but firsthand, give me an idea about what you've seen from some of these players.
So the fortunate or unfortunate thing is that we have some real superstar junior now moving on into college, and
Sure.
and so they have taken over the ranks and the reins of our championships, and rightfully so.
Sure.
They are the better players, and to play with them is humbling.
Okay.
As it would be to play with any of these champions or players here today at the Women's Am. The game that they play is nothing like the game that I play. I can move it around and luckily got myself to a single digit this year with a little hard work and a lot of instruction from my dear friend Ben Hoffine. It's humbling to play with them and the incredible level of play that they exhibit.
I can move it around. That's a phrase you hear from someone that's trying to sucker you in for a bet or something like that. So I'm just going to keep my distance. As I said, I don't have my sticks. I don't want any part of that. So this week, obviously, the clubs stay in the bag. You have a much larger role this week and not just this week. I'm sure the lead up has been tremendous, but you're the co-tournament chair of the U.S. Women's Amateur here at Westchester, and not your first go-around being a tournament chair. You were the tournament chair for the KPMG Women's PGA in 2015. So you know firsthand what it takes and all the things that will come your way throughout the week, any potential fires that need to get put out, so to speak, questions from parents, players, USGA officials, everyone involved. What led you into being the tournament chair in 2015? Have you ever done anything like that before?
So the answer is no, but
Okay.
I would like to quantify the fact that I do have a co-chair.
Yes.
And a very dear friend, Peter Knobloch, who I did not know until we were handed the 2015 KPMG Women's PGA, and we got to know each other very quickly and co-chaired that event very successfully, I think. It was a great experience. So I don't know if you knew anything about the history of that tournament in and of itself. It came together as a collaboration between KPMG, NBC, PGA, and LPGA, and decided to put it on rather quickly. And when they asked us at Westchester, we just happened to be open for business and looked forward to doing it. But it was a quick turnaround. We did about 8 months worth of preparation here. PGA came quickly on site, PGA of America, and led us through what needed to be done. And Peter and I, very humbly, did as they asked and
Sure.
coordinated over 1,000, 1,200 volunteers and did our best to do that in a quick manner and get many of the members, key members involved as division chairs and committee chairs, and it was a terrific experience all around. A great amount of work, but I think that's what sort of teed us up. He and I also then went on to another venture, Bethpage, PGA Championship, again, co-chaired a division out there for that back to March, I think it was 2019. And then this had USGA had approached us, or we had approached USGA back in 2017, 18, and we were asked to co-chair again. So we've been a duo that we may end up breaking up after this as well. Maybe August
Peter,
10th,
sorry, this first time you're hearing
10th,
this.
we may end up as a separate couple, or a separated couple. But yeah, so we've worked on several already, and this somewhat came easily, but not without its challenges for sure.
What are some of the things you probably picked up along the way, whether it's at Bethpage or with the KPMG here, that maybe let this week and the journey to this week be a little bit easier on you and Peter?
So I would say right off the bat, it's finding key committee chairs, members. In our case, we'd like to keep it all in-house.
Sure.
People that are willing and able and want to be part of it, and they will be dedicated to seeing their jobs, their committees, their divisions through.
What are not to cut you off, but what are some of the committees? Because people hear about that all the time at where this volunteers and this and all these different committees and people that are helping out. What are maybe some of the different divisions that maybe I'm not thinking of, listeners may not be thinking of, that actually allow something like this to take place?
So you would have player services.
Okay.
You would have spectator services. You would have on-course prep and whatever is necessary for on-course, whether that's ropes or
Sure.
coolers that needed to be prepared. There's a practice area. There's volunteer coordination. There's training. There are walking scorers. There are marshals on course. Player locker room needs
Sure.
to be attended to, and guests need to be welcomed, and so there's it varies. It varies on all fronts, but there's plenty. And if you're not a golfer, there's a plenty of ways to get involved and do things that are not golf related, because it's all necessary.
Sure, and with this year's championship being on Golf Channel, now we have a whole other piece in place, because
Sure.
now it's not just welcoming players and USGA staff, but also Golf Channel staff.
Correct.
So that's a big job.
But many people help along the way, so I would certainly not take credit for any or all of it. Any one piece of it is
Sure.
done because we're all one team, and we've got a lot of dedicated members that have helped along the way. So,
What brings you the greatest joy about being a co-tournament chair? I mean, obviously you're going to see the champion lift a trophy at your club, and you'll have that memory forever. But maybe what are some of the other small little things that stick out?
comes to mind all the time that the people that help, the people that volunteer, are the backbones of these championships, and the relationships are strengthened and created through it. I think that you see someone's true colors when they're put under a little pressure, and I'd like to consider most of them my friends, many of them, all of them my friends, and that they come together as members because we love this club, because we are proud of what we have here at Westchester.
Sure.
And so that's what number one is inspiring. The second thing I think that is also inspiring, what comes to mind is the staff here at Westchester. Many have been doing double and triple work this week and
Sure.
leading into this week, and it warms my heart. They are, as I said before, a part of our family. I had the experience the other day on I believe it was Saturday morning at 6:30 a.m. I saw one of the catering staff was attending to things at volunteer headquarters at 7:30 at night on Saturday. He was serving my dinner. So it just brought tears to my eyes that everybody really is dedicated to this club and to this championship.
Wow.
And yeah, we're fortunate.
That's incredible. The this year's U.S. Women's is not the first. It's the second U.S. Women's Hammer to be held at Westchester. We have to go back to 1923. Edith Cummings won the championship that year, and there are certain players that will win tournaments and their names on the trophy or their names up on the board, and as time passes, maybe they become forgotten or they're just not notable characters other than winning that championship. That is not the case with Edith Cummings. first amateur golfer, first female athlete to be on the cover of Time magazine after her win in 1923. She's part of the rich history of Westchester as well, isn't she?
She sure is. And we have commemorated that by this beautiful picture that we have hanging in one of our dining rooms, the Travis room. I never stopped. I always stop. Excuse me,
Sure.
when I pass that and know that this what it was all about is honoring her history, honoring our history, and hopefully we'll have another picture beside it very soon with another bit of history going forward.
Definitely, before we start talking about this year's U.S. Women's Amateur, I know that there are a lot of tournaments that are played on property through the club, through Ladies Golf Association here, and I know it's a Ladies 18, there's Ladies 9, there's this Red Barn tournament playing on the South Course. You have a really rich competitive history here at the club. Now, you're playing in these tournaments, I'm assuming, along with many of your friends. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing it gets quite competitive, all obviously in good fun, but it gets competitive.
Yeah, sure, and I think that we all enjoy that little level of I can try and beat my friend, today, and I may get her. I'll tell you that we do have a strong group of women that like to compete, and we all participate in something called the WMGA. They're the Met matches, the team matches,
Sure.
which are early season events. They start in the end of April and go right through first or second week in May. We field 3 teams now, where years ago it was you could barely get enough players to field one team. We go out and compete against other clubs in the area at different venues, at different clubs for title representation for that year.
Sure.
And as Westchester stands, we have now held the first series title for, I believe, 3 years in a row.
Congrats.
Our team is strong and buoyed by some of these young players now, which is terrific. They have led us to victory several years in a row, which is great. It's a real nice competitive league that we're involved in. And then just within ourselves, whether it's a weekly game, maybe there's a couple of dollars that we'll play for.
Maybe. This is an amateur golf podcast. I mean, but that's okay. So
but we have a lot of fun. A couple of skins here and there, and then a few drinks after.
Love it.
Yeah, we enjoy each other's company and enjoy, egging each other on and really trying to get the best out of each other.
On a previous episode of The Back of the Range, a very good friend of mine who I played college golf with, Willie Spicer, he's up in this area, and he lives in Wayne, New Jersey, so he's up in the Northeast. And he detailed the specifics to how to make a proper transfusion.
We've got it down here.
Okay, so I'm just going to see what your response to that question is, because he was very specific on how to make a proper transfusion. Is that the drink of choice here at Westchester?
You could say that, or a Southside. A Southside might be also a secondary.
Okay.
Or a Planter's Punch if you're at the beach.
Okay, talk to me about a Southside. I know obviously I know the ingredients of transfusion, but talk to me about a Southside. What is a Southside?
So there's lemon, there's mint, and then I think it's the alcohol of your choice: gin, vodka, bourbon.
Okay. Yeah. So the
tequila.
There you go. The transfusion that I hear that's vital is it has to be Welch's grape juice.
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. Parts that could be up to the drinker, but I think it's like three parts vodka, and
right.
The rest is a little soda.
Yeah,
a floater.
Right, but I just heard that it's vital that it's Welch's
Got
grape.
It.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure that I'm hearing.
You've heard it correctly.
I've heard it correctly. Okay. Willie Spicer is listening, and he'll be happy to hear that. Well, moving to this year's U.S. Women's Amateur, before we talk about that, this is not the first major tournament that Westchester has held. Obviously, we talked about the 1923 Women's Am, but you've held a PGA Tour event here, the Westchester Classic, basically from the mid-'60s to the mid-2000s. There's maybe a year or two in there where the Classic wasn't held, but the finest players in the world have competed here and have won championships here. And we can go down the list for Palmer and Nicholas and Sergio Garcia. The list goes on and on. What kind of a social and maybe cultural aspect did that have for this club every year? As you told me earlier, it wasn't the Westchester Classic. It wasn't the Buick. It was the Classic.
The classic would in some respects tee up the season, the golf season. It was a June event. I know it was always the week before the U.S. Open, so players would want to come to prepare for whatever the Open venue was going to be. So we'd always get a good draw of real great names. That would come through to be warmed up enough for the U.S. Open. But the Classic was to members and to the community a social event as well. We would have no problems tapping into the local hospital, United Hospital over here in Portchester, to get a contingent of volunteers, and they would also reciprocate through the charitable aspect of the tour. But it parties surrounded. It was a kickoff party, a cocktail party, a fundraising something, and they were the highlight of the summer social season, if you will.
That's and there was also golf played. It wasn't just parties.
Yeah. It just so happened,
oh
right?
Oh my gosh!
But everybody came out, and early morning, kids would come up here before school to get the autographs, to line up and clamor for somebody, and even Tiger at the later days. But get some autographs, go off to school, and then come back and ride their bikes up here and be part of it. It was really a community. The town thrived. The players came and dined in the restaurants in town, and the media came and planted themselves here for several weeks. It was a real thrill and a real energizing experience.
Probably way too many tournaments to choose from, but can you think of one that was your favorite, just as a member of Westchester, to be here, just the entire aspect of not just the golf you were able to see on the golf course, but the different parties and just all can you think of one year that really stands out? Probably can think of many, but I mean,
right? Can
sure.
I put it was somewhere in the 90s. I was newly married and newly experiencing as a member of this country club, all those things. And my husband, being in the restaurant business, as I said, had a lot of asks to parties. We got a lot of invites to parties up on the water in Greenwich, and I couldn't quite pinpoint the date, but I know it was in the 90s, and what a great entree into the what was going to become the rest of my life, and it's a wonderful experience. It was a wonderful experience then.
That's I can only imagine what one of those parties must have been like. This year's U.S. Women's Amateur, the best amateurs in the world are here. As I stated earlier, you're a single-digit handicapper. You know this course very well. Maybe they're playing from different tees than you, maybe not. But they are have to learn very quickly how to navigate around this golf course. Maybe they, some arrived on Friday, Saturday, had the benefit of a couple practice rounds. Some didn't. Some may only had one trip around the park to kind of figure out, how am I going to get myself into match play? What are maybe some of the things about this golf course that, if a player came up to you and said, how do I get around this course? How do I get around Westchester? What are some of the things that you would say to some of these players through your own experience, how to successfully play this golf course?
Sure, I would say don't fight it.
Okay.
I would certainly when it's not the shot isn't there, don't try to force it.
Okay.
The rough is brutal. I think I certainly, going back to what you just said, I certainly don't play from the tees that they would play from. I'll play way forward, but I just don't have the length. Around the green is key, and I know that keeping it below the hole is key.
Sure.
So you've got to have those shots, those chips that'll run and then spin, I think, and long carries for sure for over the water on what is their 8, I believe they flip the 9s. I know you know that, right?
No, I know that too, and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up too. I'll let you finish.
I speak 2 different languages when I go there,
of course,
because it's sort of left brain, right brain, I think. But so long carries over the water. They I've seen beautiful drives on the 8th hole, and then second that land on the green, which is terrific. I've also seen some. The wind was tough yesterday,
sure.
by the way. So I think that really affected what they were expecting and what the results were on some of the approaches and things. So, but I would say, if you can keep it out of the rough, keep it out of the rough. And if you're in the rough, give it up to what it is. Don't fight that and try to think that you're going to grab a fairway wood or something. I think take your medicine and just get out and move on.
Sure. You mentioned flipping the nine. So for the members, you start on the...
We start on the 10th hole. This is so it becomes a little challenging for non-members. It's nothing because you're just looking at the course as it's presented. For the players, it's nothing. But for us talking, if we need a walking scorer out or a marshal on or a tee box filled up again, the radios are going nuts, and it's like R9, they're 14 or something like that, and so it's two different things. So we should just speak one language, and we haven't all agreed to do that, so it's been a little challenging.
And for the players, so they are starting their first hole is the
Our
members' 10th, and it's a par 3.
Mm-hmm.
So incredibly unique experience. I can't remember ever playing a golf course. I've been playing for 30 some odd years. I can't remember playing a golf course where we led off with a par 3,
Mm-hmm.
much less starting off a par 3 in a national championship. And that hole is, yesterday I was out there, it's basically 170 slide up the hill into the breeze. I'm seeing players hit hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Would you want to start a national championship on a par 3?
No, I'm with you.
Okay.
And I wouldn't. I'd always a par 5 if it's my choice. But yeah, when we present the idea, I think it just sets up nicer for the finishing holes.
Sure.
Or so you have to give up that one hole, but it's a great challenge to start on, and can't be long because you're over the back and it's rolling away, and surrounded by bunkers on 10 there. So it is a bit of a challenging start.
It's
so
unique.
maybe you get a little bit of that out of the way, and you move on to, I conquered that, and on to the next.
Well,
right?
and it also it was interesting, watching some of the players tee off. If they hit the green, it's an immediate sense of kind of achievement and celebration, as opposed to just, okay, nice ball in the fairway. Nice, that doesn't give a huge reward. But
there is pressure, I guess.
There's pressure, but also that sense of achievement you can get right off the bat. We spoke previously about the junior golf initiative here at Westchester Country Club, how you're getting kids into the game early and keeping it fun and competitive. Yesterday, I'm walking between a couple tee boxes and greens. I look over, I'm like, oh, there's a green. Maybe that's just for maintenance, or maybe that's something where they're testing. And then I'm like, wait a minute, there's a cup in there. And then I look in the distance, they got a short course here. Okay, so how much fun is that short course, and who plays it?
So if you're smart, you play it,
Okay.
because it improves your game all around, right? We call it the par 3, by the way.
Okay.
It's used by everybody. The junior players will use it mostly during the day. They have a junior tournaments on that, par 3 tournaments. It's used by, as I said, the smarter players, because
you're really a proponent of that.
Work on your short game skills, carrying just a couple of clubs in your hand,
right.
As well as then intro for any level player to just get out there and start the game. I've seen women's groups go out and start to learn themselves maybe a little bit later in life, realizing the rest of their family is out there having fun and they've got to catch up. But it's utilized by everybody, and it's a great venue for practice. It's a great venue to challenge for the younger set and to learn the game. Best
score on the par 3 course?
Probably something like a 39 or 40.
I didn't ask you. Do you have a hole-in-one? Do you have a hole-in-one?
As a matter of fact, I have a good story. So I do have 2 hole-in-ones.
Okay.
2 hole-in-ones, and I say I have 2.5 hole-in-ones.
Okay.
Because you know how those things go.
I know.
So none of them were because of skill, but all of them because of luck, kind of thing. Because they've spanned my whole golf career. As a 9-holer, I had standing on our 4th hole par 3 on the south course. I blew my first one out of bounds, and my second one went straight into the cup. So that's my half.
Oh, that's your half.
Okay. The second one was on, again, the South Course, hole number 8. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in July. I don't think there were 10 people around. My husband was not even happy to be playing with me because I probably had 8, 9, 6, 4, 1. And he said, "That's it. We can go in." I said, "No. We got to finish the round.
This has to be
now."
official.
Absolutely.
This has to be official.
So he probably will never let me forget that. Nobody was in the clubhouse when I came in to celebrate. There was
Cheap.
not a drink bought.
Cheap.
Exactly. And then last one was actually last year during COVID, which was a lot of fun. I was with 3 of my really good friends, and we were just out having a good time. And on the 16th hole, South Course again. It's a longer one. That's about 155 yards. And I hit a nice shot, and it curled up and over a hill and into the cup, and we were celebrating. That was the time
awesome.
I called the kids. I called everybody over, and still had a great time, great experience. Each and every one unique.
That's fantastic. Oh, so good. That South Course has treated you well.
Yes, my favorite.
Perfect.
My favorite. The West Course is the challenge for sure, and I do play it just to test myself. But I more often on the South Course.
That's great. Marianne, this is a treat. I really appreciate first of all the hospitality that you and the entire team here at Westchester has shown me. I'm thrilled to be here for this entire week. I really appreciate you walking me through a little bit of the history, your history, the history of the club, and how special it is to have a U.S. Women's Amateur at Westchester. So. Appreciate you stopping by the back of the range. Hope we can do it again soon, and enjoy the week.
Thanks so much, Ben. Great to meet you.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Mary Ann Sullivan for joining me on this episode here at the back of the range. Thank you so much to the USGA and everyone here at Westchester for making me feel so welcome for the U.S. Women's Amateur. Next week, it's the U.S. Am at Oakmont, so make sure you're following along on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we'll see you next time here at the back of the range.